Appreciate you coming. And Rick and Dawn and obviously you folks know that my wife and I had an opportunity to travel to Argentina. Argentina has been a place that has held a lot of memories for me that have been locked for years and years and years. And it's because my grandfather, in 1927, he and my grandmother and my mother moved from Canada to Argentina and as missionaries. And Grandpa was, I think my aunt said he was 46 in 1939 when he died, and he moved there in 27. So he was, what, 30, 34? He was there 12 years. Okay. He was called to the mission field under the ministry of Charles Wortman. Charles Wortman and his wife had been in Argentina in a place called Bolivar and had returned to Canada, and in Canada during some mission services that my grandfather attended, Grandpa was a cobbler. And during those mission services, God called my grandfather to the mission field. He went to Buenos Aires to language school, and in the middle of language school, God just impressed on him the name of this one town, and it was called Henderson. And he said, I've got to go there now. He didn't even finish language school. He said, I've got to go there now, and he left language school. Nobody knew where Henderson was. And Henderson is about 5 hours drive from Buenos Aires. And I'll show you, give you an idea logistically where that is on a map. But Grandpa ministered in Argentina 12 years, and he died in Argentina. So I never knew my grandfather. After Grandpa died, my mom and my grandmother and my aunt continued in ministry in the church for 5 more years. During his 12 years of ministry, Grandpa started 5 churches on his own and ordained 10 ministers to go out into the harvest field. And through that course of time and down through the years of time, 600 churches can be, in Argentina alone, can be traced back to Grandpa's ministry through ministers that Grandpa trained and so on, and through the Assemblies of God of Argentina. Okay, this journey for me was awesome. My wife and I just have continually, since we've been home, just we have sat and watched videos and pictures and still just reveled in Dominic. You're gonna have to sit up, buddy. Okay, we have reveled in the blessings and the joy that and the wonderful experience that we had in Argentina. So we're gonna take you on that journey. The highlight of our trip, obviously, was Henderson, but we're going to take you through, give you an idea of what we saw, some special places in Buenos Aires, and take you on this journey with us. The journey that unlocked a legacy. And a legacy is something that is left behind by an ancestor. Okay? And I want to read this one scripture. I thought of Paul's letter to the church at Philippians, at Philippi, and this truly is something that has touched our hearts. Paul says, Paul and Timotheus, the servants of Jesus Christ, to all the saints in Christ Jesus which are at Philippi with the bishops and deacons, grace be unto you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ. I thank my God upon every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine for you, all making request with joy for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now. And Paul held a very special place in his heart for churches that he started and for believers that he pastored. And those who he just wrote to, he still had a very special place in his heart. And after returning from Argentina, one of the first things that I said was, I can understand why my grandfather loved the people. I really can. And I pray that, we can only just barely scratch the surface of meaning of what we experienced in Argentina. But I hope that and pray that you'll enjoy this journey with us. There is Buenos Aires. Now, we think you think you're just going to fly south. Well, you're not going to just fly south, because you fly southeast, okay, to Buenos Aires. Now, Google had me taken off from Johnstown Airport, but we actually flew over Cuba, and down coming home, we actually flew over the north part of Chile and up across over Lima, Peru, and then we flew up the east coast of Florida, and we actually flew from Pittsburgh to Atlanta and Atlanta to Buenos Aires. But that gives you an idea. From Atlanta to Buenos Aires is 5,023 miles. Back when Grandpa went, they didn't have airplanes like that, okay? They took a ship. It took them almost 3 months. They sailed out of New York Harbor, and it took them almost 3 months to get to Buenos Aires. So it's a long, long trip by ship, okay? But airplane, that's amazing. I truly am amazed how it's done nowadays. This was leaving Pittsburgh and flying into Atlanta. The weather was awesome for all of our flights. It really was. That was the morning sun coming into Buenos Aires. That was I took that picture around 4 o'clock in the morning, and the sun was just coming over the sunrise. And you can see the wingtip of the plane coming into Buenos Aires. We landed we were supposed to land in Buenos Aires at 9 o'clock, and supposed to, okay, and I'll explain that supposed to, but at 8 o'clock or 7:30, I think it was, all the lights in the cabin came on, and they're serving breakfast, okay. So we ate. We were hungry by that time, okay. That was Buenos Aires at 9 o'clock. And they told us at 20 minutes to 9 that Buenos Aires was fogged in. And so they said, we need 200 meters of visibility to land the plane, and there's only 100 meters at the runway level. So they said that we're probably going to be in a holding pattern. Well, at 9 o'clock, we see Buenos Aires, and this is Buenos Aires at 9 o'clock when we're supposed to land, and they come back and said, we are in a holding pattern, and we have 55 minutes of fuel. And I said to Barb, and There's those think words and say words, and sometimes we get those mixed up and they come out louder than what they're supposed to. And I said to Barb, I said, well, one way or another, we're going to be down in 55 minutes. We were up there 45 minutes. So they pushed it pretty close, but we were up there 45 minutes. Yeah, we look pretty beat. Hotel, here we come. And these were the elevators. There were 4 elevators. These were the elevators in our hotel. And trust me, that hotel looked awful good when we got there. We couldn't go there right away because we were too early. Check-in wasn't till noon hour. So, we did look pretty tired, didn't we? It's a long trip. This is the address of my sister and brother-in-law's apartment. Okay? And this is the harbor of Buenos Aires. There are a lot of boroughs in Buenos Aires, just like there are in New York. But in Buenos Aires, there's quite a lot more boroughs. And one of them is Puerto Madero, which is this area here. It's actually, the port. And they have a port coming in from the south and a port coming in from the north. And this area in here this is a marina here. And this is all water in here. And they live right there at Olga Cosentini. 1190, and that's the address. And down in Argentina, they put the numbers after the name. Okay, I just mailed something to them today, and I now understand all of everything that's on the address and how it lays out. But this is a very secure and very pretty area of Buenos Aires. Okay. When you get over into this area of the city, over in this area here, it gets pretty dark, it's not a very clean city. In fact, the city put dumpsters that they're about, I'd say probably about 6 foot wide, and they stand about 5-6 foot tall, and they have plastic lids on them. They put them all around the city so that people could throw their garbage in, because they were just throwing their garbage in the street. And the city pays for the emptying of the dumpster. Okay, this is the port of Puerto Madero. Those cranes are only aesthetic value. They used to unload cargo. Not anymore. They have left them there only for the purpose of just the aesthetic value of it only. This lady here is the prefectura. She is a police officer. She is a naval police officer, because the port of Puerto Madero is policed by the Navy. Okay, even though it's a part of the city of Buenos Aires, it's policed by the Navy. You see those all around. I mean, they stand everywhere. The prefectura walking around Puerto Madero. And then they're everywhere. They have police in a lot of other places too in the city, and you see them. All they do is stand around. Really, they drive cars, and they have blue lights for lights, and their blue lights are always on. They never turn them off. The only time you know that they're on a call, an emergency call, is when you hear a siren. Same with the ambulances. The ambulances have green lights. And the only time you know they're on a call is that you hear a siren. Otherwise, their lights are on all the time. Okay. Fire company, not that same way. Fire company doesn't turn their lights on unless they're on an emergency. This is a bridge that can be seen from, we could see it from our hotel room. And this is not a postcard picture. That's called the Women's Bridge. And it was built to honor the women in leadership in Argentina. Okay, it is a bridge that turns, it pivots. This post here, right underneath the angle, this post is a pivot, and the bridge turns on that post and opens for the purpose of allowing boats to go through. They're not like big cargo ships, okay, because those 4 sections of port are only for small ships and small boats, okay? But this, you see this post here? That is a support post that when it turns, it goes and rests on top of that post on the other side. So I would say maybe 90% of that bridge actually turns and opens, okay? But that's called the Women's Bridge. And right here is my sister and mother-in-law's apartment building, okay? These 2 buildings here were built since my sister and brother-in-law moved down to Argentina. There's my sister and mother-in-law's apartment building. They live on the 3rd floor, and when my sister and mother-in-law first moved in there, Margie and Ray, they could see the harbor. And then they built this building in front of it, so they no longer could see the harbor. In the bottom of this building, it's like a strip mall. Okay? Shops. We went in several of them. It's kind of interesting. And also food places. We ate at Mostaza's. Mostaza's is a hamburger French fry joint. And there is a McDonald's down there, and Burger King, and Subway, and Starbucks. Okay? For those of you who can't go without your morning coffee. Okay? You can see that there's a skyscraper that they're currently in the process of constructing. The skyscrapers are not in Puerto Madero. They are actually in the other borough just across. Actually, there's a set of railroad tracks that separates the Port of Madero from the other part of the city. Okay? That looks, that is very modern, okay? But that is the view from our hotel room. It's awesome. It's an awesome view. This is, it was fascinating watching. Actually, we had the opportunity to see a whale. Well, I saw the whale. A whale wandered into the harbor, and it was only a small humpback whale, and all the news crews were all standing around the port and around the railing, and we asked them what was going on, and my nephew did, and he said, we're watching for a whale. They were shoulder to shoulder, the people were. So I stepped up to the railing, and sure enough, the whale came up for breath, and so I got to see the whale. I think the whale was probably only, like 25 feet long or so, but it was kind of interesting. This is the night view from our hotel room. We were on the 7th floor, and it was awesome, awesome, awesome view. Now, you're going to see a pink house, or a pink building. It's coming up on your left as I scan around here. Here it is right here. Okay, that is called the Pink House. Okay? Duh. Anybody have any idea what it is? What house is it? It's the Casa Rosada. It's the presidential palace. Now, that is not where the president lives. They call it the presidential palace, but is not where the president lives. The president, her name is Christine, and they have about as much respect for her down there as what we do for Obama up here. And, there's not a whole lot of respect for her. There is the Pink House during the daytime, okay? The Casa Rosada. And this is where she conducts governmental business, okay? So all day long, in and out, helicopters. They They don't bring them in by cars. They bring them in by helicopters. And all day long, in and out, helicopters, bringing officials in. But this is where we got to, actually, they took us into our office. We had a tour of Casa Rosada, and we did get to go into her office. We couldn't take pictures, legally. Yeah, they actually asked us to hang our cameras. If we had one hanging around our neck, they actually asked us to hang them on our back. Okay. They wouldn't let us take pictures in certain areas of the Casa Rosada. In front of the Casa Rosada, this area here, you'll see more of that in a minute. That's the Plaza, Plaza de Mayo. Okay. There is the Casa Rosada at dusk, and they turn the pink lights on. The story is that they were going to paint it white, and they ended up mixing it with the blood of bovines and turned out red or pink. Okay, so they call it Casa Rosada, and it's the pink house. Okay, this is looking out the balcony where the president would speak from in the Casa Rosada, where she would speak to crowds. And I'm going to show you, this is the plaza, and they love their monuments. Argentina loves their monuments. And where they put a monument, they put a traffic circle. Because they'll put it in the middle of the city. Okay? They're everywhere. But right here, you can see there's a fence. And I'll show it to you in a little bit. The military, the Argentine military, retired military or retired veterans, have set up a permanent protest to the government to what they did in the Falkland Islands. Okay? The Falkland Islands in 1982. Does anybody remember that? Okay? The Falkland Islands were under the rule of the United Kingdom. Okay? There was some, I was reading up on it, and there have been some kind of back and forth between Argentina and the Falkland Islands is way down in the South Atlantic, the southern tip of Argentina. And the story is that the president at that time in 1982 in Argentina was drunk and made the decision to send the military into the Falkland Islands to take over the Falkland Islands. Okay? And the massacre was great. And the story is that they brought back the bodies of the military, the Argentine military, in body bags and laid them on the plaza right here in front of the presidential palace. Okay? This is the protest. They set up a tent, and they live in that tent, okay? And they set up, they have, this is, I'm not sure exactly what that says, but this is now this looks like graffiti, okay? But this is a wall that they have of canvas that they have set up to represent their protest and their hatred of the government for what they did in the Falkland Islands. And you can see it says 1982. See that? Okay? And the bloodshed was great. And it says conflict of the Atlantic, the South Atlantic. That's what that says on the top of it. And down here, see the three flags? There's two of them that you can recognize. Britain, Great Britain, and the United States. And we had nothing to do with that. That I know of. Yes. Chile. Yeah. They believe, what?
Is it because we were on the Britain side when they went on the Falklands?
I don't know, honestly, Ben. As far as I can remember, and I remember the conflict, but I don't remember being involved in it. Does anybody remember that? I don't think the United States was involved in it at the time. But that's what they believe. In their minds, they believe that it was an alliance between the British and Chile and the United States that caused their massacre. And so this is set up, and you can see that the chess game, and that's what they felt the president was doing, was, you know, playing chess with them and with these three nations, and they lost. Okay, part of the banner is missing here, but you can see that the horror and the faces, and this represents the blood and the martyrs of those who died in that massacre. Okay, but it's set up there permanently. The government does not try and take it down. They live in that tent 24/7. Okay, and the weather we had today outside of the clouds, this is Argentine winter weather. Okay, it was Argentine's winter. Yeah, if you had taken away the clouds today and it was sunny, the temperatures today would have been just like it was in Buenos Aires when we were down there. Okay, this is one of the main intersections in the city. Okay, this building over here, one night we went by it, I didn't have my camera out in time, had the face of, that building is all LED, and they had the face of the president on there, which they can't stand. And she's out. Her term is up as of the end of this year. Okay, and interestingly enough, all over the city, they have a lot of like little advertising boards. They're only like about 3 foot by 4 foot, and they have lights in them, and they're displayed both sides. Okay, we actually saw a guy who was on the campaign trail of of this lady, of her party. Okay, he actually came by with a bucket and a brush, and this is plexiglass. Okay, he glued the whole plexiglass and put up a poster of the reigning party that she's involved in. Both sides glued it right to the plexiglass. So it's kind of interesting, but that's one of the main intersections. Traffic is a nightmare. This was not rush hour. Okay, that was normal, and any parking for office buildings is all underground, and that's what that is. That's underground parking. Okay, it's just absolutely amazing. Traffic, constant flow of people, constant flow of traffic. It's all little cars. Yes, no Lincolns. No Lincolns. Yes, I did get to drive. Yes, I drove a small Chevy, like a Chevy Cruze or something, and it was a standard shift. Okay, 4 on the floor. Most of the cars are standards. They don't use automatics. I'm not sure what the reason is. Man, if I was stopping at all those stoplights down there, I wanted automatic badly. I got tired of shifting. This is the federal police. These vans are seen sitting all around that plaza that I was showing you. Okay, and the windows. These are tinted windows on the sides, and you look through those tinted windows, and you can see the officers sitting in there, riot gear, machine guns. You name it. They're sitting there. They're waiting. There was about 6 of them positioned around the plaza and around the presidential palace. I did. Well, I didn't actually ask them if I could go in. I could see in through the tinted window. Okay. Yeah. They just sit there. My brother-in-law said that at any point in time, a protest can arise. They don't need a permit, and a protest can arise, and that's what they're there for, is to control the crowd. Okay, But that's the federal police, okay? There's the monuments. Does that look familiar? How did George Washington get a monument down in Buenos Aires? Okay? That is actually a monument to one of their presidents. Okay? Looks just like George Washington, the Washington Monument. There are other monuments, and again, they put the monuments in the middle of the street, and then they put traffic circles around them. That's what they do. This is the Cologne Opera House. This was a fascinating place. It's supposed to be second only to the Sydney Opera House. And we actually were able to get on an English-speaking tour of the Opera House. And it was fascinating. It was huge. This is the inside. This picture is taken from a box that we were sitting in on the third balcony up. There was 7 balconies, okay? There is no sound system in the building. It is completely acoustically perfect. Anywhere you sit in that building, there is no sound system in it, okay? There was a guy that was actually practicing, you know what a kettle drum is? Okay? There was a guy that was practicing the kettle drum. They were having a production the next night, and the sound of the kettle drum. We were at the very back of the auditorium on the third balcony up, and the sound of the kettle drum was drowning out our speaker, our guide. So we had to ask her to repeat. This is near the entrance of the opera house, the chandelier. This is the domed ceiling of the opera house. That's about as good as I could get it. That picture was actually taken with my cell phone, believe it or not. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And if you look closely, the depiction on there, I'm not sure what the story is, but there you can see a lot of musical instruments in that if you enlarge it, and so it's all got to do with music. This is Potter's Hands Christian Center. This is Margie and Ray Bradbury's church. Okay, this is the building that they have moved into. Now, doesn't look like a church, does it? Okay. This gate is an iron gate that they have to use to keep closed except during the church service times. This is the side entrance. That is also locked iron bars. Okay. There is a law in Argentina, and the law is it's a squatter's law. And if squatters can come in and take over your building and stay for a certain number of days consecutively at a time, they can legally stay there for 3 years. There was a lady in the church service the night that I preached who came and asked for prayer. She said that she was in the process of getting a new house. Squatters had come into her house and taken over her house, and she lost it. Just down the street, my brother-in-law said that there was a building that squatters had taken over, and the law allows them. That's why they have to have the gates and the bars. To keep, when they're not there, they have to keep the riffraff out, if you would, okay? This was all remodeled. You can see the dirt on the bottom here? You know what that's from? People standing up against the wall like this with their feet, okay? That graffiti is new. My brother-in-law said that was some graffiti that had just been put up there. This is the Potter's Hands Christian Center where Margie and Ray pastored. It's kind of, how long did it take us to get to church? We drove to church, and it was about 20 blocks. About 20 blocks from Margie and Ray's apartment, okay? We took a bus this day, okay? Because there's no place to park during the daytime along the street there. So this is the inside. This is upstairs. This is the kitchen of the church. This is a lounge area and office. And this is a Sunday school room. This is on the second floor of the building. The building is 3 stories, okay? Very nice. And this is Ray's office here. And this is the sanctuary, okay? And they love their tile in Argentina. Everything is tiled, including the streets, the sidewalks. The sidewalks, the only concrete sidewalks that we saw that were poured was in Puerto Madero. All the other sidewalks that we walked in Buenos Aires City were all tiled. All tiled. And when they start breaking up, boy, they are a pain. It's worse than sidewalks here. But they love their tile. This is the 3rd floor. At the back, upstairs, outside, it's like a terrace of Margie and Ray's church, the Potter's Hands Christian Center. Okay, this downstairs was completely remodeled. Ray said that when they went in there was a pipe back in the corner of the kitchen that was leaking, and it was leaking inside the wall, and nobody knew it. And when they went in there was water on the floor and in the walls, and it was leaking into the electrical system. So they had to get the sanctuary all remodeled. And these walls, what they did was they plastered the walls. They tore everything on the walls down inside the sanctuary. Then they plastered the walls and put a layer of rubber on the walls, and then put sheetrock and plastered again on top of that. And the rubber is for soundproofing. Okay, so they actually tried it. Margie went in there and turned up, her system and drums and everything, and they went next door on both sides, and you couldn't hear a thing. And they put, and I'll show you the front of it. At nighttime, I'll show you the front. They put soundproof double thermal pane glass and glass doors, 2 layers of it, 2 levels of it, so you can't hear the traffic on the street, okay? Because the traffic on the street is horrible. This gentleman is Jose Carlos. This is my brother-in-law, Ray. Margie's at the piano, and this is my nephew back here. Jose pastors a church in La Boca. La Boca is another borough of Buenos Aires, and he is the one that back in 2000 asked Margie and Ray to come and stay and live as missionaries in Buenos Aires. Okay, Jose Carlos is an offspring of a pastor that my grandfather trained. And he pastors a large church in La Boca. Okay, and this is the nighttime view. Those are the glass doors and glass windows of the front of the church, of Margie and Ray's church. And like I said, they are soundproof. Okay, you can't hear the traffic in the street. And my nephew here is playing his violin. This is my older sister and her husband, Gary and Jan. And Margie and Ray, that's the 6 of us. We were all together in Argentina. Amazing. We traveled all that distance so that we could all be together. But that's what Ray had wanted. He wanted us to dedicate his church to the Lord together. Okay? Excuse that video. I'm not sure what happened there. Let me see if I can. Jeffrey is 30. He just turned 30. Yep. That's my sister and brother-in-law's youngest son.
Y vamos a orar juntos, amén.
Amen. See if you recognize his voice.
Gracias al Señor. Y cada martes tenemos un clase de capacitación de líderes a las 8:30 hasta 9:30 de la noche. Y yo quiero invitar a todos, pero esta martes vamos a cancelar, porque de nuevo es invitar a José y su esposa también, porque estas martes que vienen no tenemos una capacitación porque el camino está aquí, qué raro, pero el camino, so ten paciencia con su pastor, porque el martes siguiente sí o sí vamos a continuar con la capacitación con PCI.
This is what Jeff does. He teaches violin. And these are 3 kids in the church. And they're just learning violin. So you'll recognize the first song that they play. You'll recognize the second one too. The first one is not really a gospel song.
el key.
What's this one? Nothing but play. That's right. Yep, nothing but play.
That's just what he says before. He says about Josh and I that he's the older. It's over the semester.
There wasn't yet.
Yeah.
Dios le bendiga.
Means God bless
It's
you.
a joy for me to be here tonight.
Es un gozo para mí estar acá esta noche.
And something hit my husband and me on the way here.
Algún gripe pegó a mi esposo y a mí en el camino acá.
It hit me first,
A mí me pegó primero
and now it has hit him.
y ahora está con él.
It's chosen to hit us right in the stomach.
Eligió pegarnos justo en el estómago.
But praise God, I'm here tonight.
Pero gloria a Dios, yo estoy acá esta noche.
I am feeling better.
Me siento mejor
And I thank you for your prayers, sister.
y les agradezco sus oraciones.
And I'm agreeing in faith with you. My husband is well. When I go back to the hotel room, he's going to be 100%.
Y estoy de acuerdo con ustedes en fe que cuando yo vuelva al hotel esta noche que mi esposo va a estar al 100%.
Psalm 5:12 says this.
Salmo 5, versículo 12 dice así.
For you, O Lord, will bless the righteous.
Pues tú, Señor, bendecirás al justo.
With favor, you will surround him or her
Con favor vas a rodear a él o a ella,
as with a shield.
así como un escudo.
Now, when David was talking about a shield,
Pero cuando David hablaba de un escudo,
he wasn't just talking about the round shield that you picture Goliath had, you know, when he faced David.
no estaba hablando de un escudo así redondo, cuando David, el tipo de lo que tenía Goliat, por ejemplo.
He was talking about a circular shield.
Estaba hablando de un escudo en forma circular alrededor así, cilíndrico, kind of, right? Claro, cilíndrico, sí.
A shield that went all the way around the person.
Un escudo que rodeaba completamente a la persona.
That's the kind of shield that the Lord will protect you with.
Es con ese tipo de escudo que va a proteger el Señor.
He will encircle you
Que te va a estar alrededor como un
with a
círculo,
shield of His favor.
con un escudo de su favor.
I heard your pastor tonight praying for favor.
Escuché a su pastor esta noche pidiendo favor al
Be
Señor,
poured on your life.
que se derrame sobre sus vidas.
And God has promised favor.
Y Dios ha prometido favor.
He's promised favor to those who walk uprightly with Him.
Ha prometido favor para los que caminan en justicia con Él.
So as long as you put Him first,
Así que con tal que lo pongas a Él primero en tu vida,
He will surround you with a shield of His
te
favor.
va a rodear con un escudo de su favor.
You can count on it.
Podés depender de eso.
Dios te bendiga.
Wow. Wow.
It is an honor and a privilege
Es un honor y un privilegio
to be with you.
estar con ustedes.
I want you to know that there are people all over North America,
Quiero que sepan que hay gente por todo Norteamérica,
wherever your pastor has visited,
a donde quiera que tu pastor haya visitado,
who are praying for you.
quienes están orando por ustedes.
And we in our church pray for you.
Y Y nosotros en nuestra iglesia oramos por ustedes también.
We have not just prayed for my sister and my brother-in-law,
No solo oramos por mi hermana y mi cuñado,
but we have prayed for all of you.
sino que también oramos por todos ustedes.
And I want to say thank you to my brother-in-law for the invitation
Y quiero agradecer a mi cuñado por la invitación
to come and share this special time with you,
de venir y compartir este tiempo especial con ustedes,
to dedicate this place
para dedicar este lugar
to the glory of
a la
God
gloria de Dios
and to the word of God.
y a la obra de Dios.
I stood here last night
Yo me paré acá anoche
totally moved by the Holy Spirit.
completamente conmovido por el Espíritu Santo.
And the Spirit of the Lord just confirmed what He has given me to speak to you.
El Espíritu del Señor me ha confirmado lo que me dio para hablarles esta noche
Tonight in the Word.
en la palabra de Dios.
I want to say thank you to my grandfather,
Quiero agradecer a mi abuelo
who left a phenomenal legacy
que dejó un legado fenomenal
for me to follow.
para que yo lo siga.
My two sisters and I tonight
Mis dos hermanas y yo esta noche
follow Jesus Christ
seguimos a Jesucristo
because Grandpa left the Word of God in the hearts of my mom.
porque mi abuelo dejó la palabra de Dios en el corazón de mi madre
And my grandmother,
y mi abuela
and my aunt.
y mi tía.
And they, in turn, shared that word
Y ellos a su vez compartieron esa palabra
with us.
con nosotros.
We never knew my grandfather.
Nunca conocimos a mi abuelo.
He passed away in Argentina in 1939.
Murió acá en Argentina en 1939.
But over the years of time
Pero durante los años
and the miles that have been spread abroad,
y los kilómetros por todo el mundo,
we love the same Jesus
amamos al mismo Jesús
that you love.
que aman ustedes.
And it is an honor and a privilege to be here.
Y es un honor y un privilegio estar con ustedes esta noche.
I want to look into the Word of God to 2 Chronicles chapter 6.
Quiero ver la palabra de Dios según
Para dedicar nosotros mismos también al Señor. Los pastores van a guiarnos en una participación, en una declaración. Amén. Como discípulos de Cristo. Amén. Y Felipe va a orar la oración de dedicación sobre la iglesia. Gloria a Dios. Nuestro hermano, cuidarse
We left Buenos Aires to go to Henderson, and I got my international driver's license so I could drive. And Buenos Aires is up here in the right-hand top corner, and Henderson is down here. And we took Highway 7 and 5. This highway, Highway 5 and 226, it's all 2-lane. Okay? Once you got out of Buenos Aires City, it was 2-lane. 70 miles an hour on 2-lane highway. And they have no respect for double yellow lines, no respect for curves, no respect. I mean, they'll pass. They don't use their signal lights. They pass you and they pass you. And all the tractor trailers, 50 miles an hour. Now, if they were all doing 70, that would have been better. 50 miles an hour, they became a traffic hazard. They were impeding the flow. But 2-lane highway, man, they move. And they don't care they just move. And people were passing me. I was driving 70 and people were passing me. And I mean, they just, oh man. So you drive like them or you get lost or you stay behind. Okay? This is the entrance to Henderson. The highway that you saw, you go through no towns. No towns. All the towns are exits off of the highway. You actually exit off the highway to go to a town. The highways don't go through towns. That was fascinating to me. You don't have red lights. You don't have stop signs. There were some traffic circles where there were some major intersections, but you don't go through towns. And Henderson was an exit off of 226. Okay, but this is the big sign out in the lawn and as the entrance to the town. In the background there to that, they do have Wi-Fi. They have broadband in Henderson, town-wide. Okay, that's the bus depot coming into town, and you'll notice something that probably 90% of the houses do not have peaked roofs. They're all flat roofs. But driving down through this town is like a step back in time. It really is. Old cars. Some of the cars we saw were like 1960s Ford Falcons, 1960s Ford pickup trucks. There was an old, you'll see us, we'll drive by one of these old trucks. I was driving, I think Barb was taking these pictures. But you see all the roofs are all flat. And obviously you see the trees don't have leaves on because it is winter. Yeah. It doesn't look like it because the grass is green. You know, amazing. But it's winter. See that old car that we just went by there? And we're looking for the church. And my brother-in-law can't remember how to get to the church. He says, well, if we find the hospital, we'll find the church. I'm not sure what the correlation was there between the two places. But anyways, ultimately what we do is we stop and ask a man riding a bicycle. And he said, follow me. So he took us on, we followed him on the bicycle. But see, most of the roofs are flat. They're not, a lot of the houses are not well kept. And there's a newer vehicle there. Did we come up to the look, see that old car there? There's the truck. It's an old Mercedes. A lot of Mercedes-Benz vehicles down there. Peugeots. Citroën. Citroën is a French-made car. Okay, but we come up. In Henderson, there's only one stoplight. And Henderson is a town of almost 10,000 people. They have one stoplight and no stop signs. No stop signs. Okay, they have speed bumps. They don't obey signs anyways, but the speed bumps they can't ignore. And where there's no speed bump, you know, you know how on our highways and roads they crest the pavement so that the water flows off. Well, at intersections they actually dip the pavement, so if you don't slow down, you'll dive into the bumper, front of the bumper of your car. So they actually make you slow down. And it's a matter of courtesy, whoever gets to the intersection first. That would never work here, would it? There's the stoplight. There's the only stoplight in the town. Okay, this is where we're going to follow the man on the bicycle. There he is. We're following the man on the bicycle. Yeah, it was tough. I had to quit. I had to tell Ray to quit dragging his feet. But we were only a few blocks away from the church when we met the man on the bicycle. And interestingly enough, the church is the most beautiful building in town. It is the largest church in town and the strongest church in town. Okay? When the town brings in visitors or officials, they always take them past the church to show them how beautiful the church is. He's going to make a right-hand turn here. There's the speed bump. You see the speed bump? Up over the speed bump. There's an old, looks like, I think that's a 64, 65 Ford pickup truck that was sitting there. Okay? And here's the church. It's beautiful. Now, you would not think by looking at that church building that it seats almost 600 people. On the outside, it does not look like it does. Okay? This is their satellite dish. They beam a TV station, TV program to Miami every week, once a week. It's a half-hour TV program. Okay? These buildings here, they're in an L shape down the side of the church building and around the back. That's all their Sunday school rooms. And probably the most important room is this one right back here in that doorway. That's the kitchen. That is the kitchen. This church, this is the third remodeling of this church. The first one, I'll show you the first one where my grandfather started preaching. But the second building that my grandfather built was on this property, but they outgrew it. And in 2000, they started remodeling, and they built this building around the outside of their current building and tore the other building down inside. Okay? That's the church at night. Very well lit, very beautiful. Tile everywhere. Ceramic tile everywhere. The whole sanctuary is tile. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. There's the sanctuary. That's what they sit on. Those are those benches. They're pretty much benches. Yeah, they're plank benches. Yeah, that's the back of the sanctuary. Okay? And the writing on the wall says, "For nothing is impossible with God." That's what they do during the altar service. You notice what they do? Notice the benches? They push all the benches back so people can get to the altar. They just push the benches back. And if you don't get to the altar gets to you. That's the first church building that my grandfather pastored. Now, we posted this on Facebook, and we got to looking at this picture because we were told that that's my grandmother and grandfather and my aunt and my mom. That's not them. We did an enlargement, and that is not them. So we were informed wrong. But that is the church building, and today it's a library. Okay, that's the first church building that Grandpa started the work in.
Flavorless, I guess,
This
with like lemon juice entrance.
This is the cemetery where my grandfather is buried. Okay, the word that PAX. Anybody know what that is in Spanish? It's peace. Okay. This is an unbelievable experience walking into this cemetery. It is absolutely nothing at all like what you would see in North America. Nothing. These are the folks. This young man here, he is a member of the church, and his father attends the church. His father, you'll see a picture of his father, but his father was in my grandfather's last church service. These are crypts or mausoleums. Okay? They are mausoleums of rich families. In Argentina, you do not buy your cemetery plot. You rent it. And people who have these mausoleums have paid for a lease on the property for 100 years. Okay? If you do not pay, they take your bones. They do. They take your bones. This is my grandfather's grave. And this is what it says on the grave. June 9th, 1939, 46 years of age, remembered by his wife, his daughters, and congregation. I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. John 11:34. Obviously, this was Yes. Yeah, if you're Catholic, you're buried above ground, and if you're a Christian, you are buried below ground. But you're only buried like 3 feet down. Okay? And it is true. I have a picture of a grave where they actually came and took the bones out of it. And they either burn them or bury them in a common grave because the rent wasn't paid on the grave. So there's a family that maintains Grandpa's grave and pays for the rental, family in the church. Okay. This is the pastor and his wife. This is Pastor Zara, Horacio. It's Horacio and Ma Bell. Actually, it's Mabel in English, but it's Ma Bell in Spanish. This is their grandson and their daughter. Their grandson is to another one of their children, and he was just visiting. Their daughter is not married. She plays guitar in their worship band. These two people here, this lady is a pastry chef, and they were the ones that did all the cooking for us. And Jeffrey's taken the picture. There's my brother-in-law Ray and Barb and I. This is their kitchen. That is what we ate on Sunday at noon hour. That is beef short ribs. That's the open barbecue pit in their kitchen. Okay? Oh, is that good? And what we didn't eat at noon hour, we ate at 10:30 at night. Because they served the leftovers to us at 10:30 at night. This is the house across the street from the church. They bought the house and remodeled it and renovated it. This is the living room area and the kitchen area. And there's 3 bedrooms in this house. And I want to tell you something. This church and house were spotless. Not a speck of dust anywhere. They were completely spotless. It was amazing. They didn't record all the whole song on any one of the said hola.
Learning a little bit of Spanish.
Aprender un poquito de español.
I'm poor with English.
Y me cuesta el inglés también.
Master my own language.
Hay que dominar mi propio idioma.
I feel very privileged to be here.
Me siento muy privilegiada de estar acá.
This is such a blessing to us.
Es una bendición para nosotros.
We've been wanting to come for many years.
Hace muchos años que estamos queriendo venir.
And God has finally ordained this to be the time.
Y por ti Dios fijó este momento para ser el momento.
We have enjoyed ourselves tremendously.
Hemos disfrutado muchísimo.
We have loved being here.
Nos ha encantado estar acá.
We have enjoyed the Argentine food.
Hemos disfrutado muchísimo de la comida argentina.
We have enjoyed listening to the language.
Hemos disfrutado de escuchar el idioma.
It almost sounds musical.
Casi suena como música.
God is good.
Pero Dios es bueno.
He has brought me many blessings in my life.
Me ha traído muchas bendiciones en mi vida.
He has watched over me.
Me ha
He
cuidado.
has provided for me.
Siempre ha provisto
He's
para
given
mí.
me strength.
Me ha dado fuerza.
But you are beautiful people.
Pero son
You
gente
are
hermosa.
part of my family.
Son parte de mi familia.
Together we are brothers and sisters in the Lord.
Juntos somos hermanos y hermanas en el Señor.
I doubt that I will be back. I don't know.
Dudo que puedo volver, no sé.
But if I don't see you again here,
Si no los veo de vuelta acá,
I'm going to see you in heaven.
los voy a ver en el cielo.
I just want to thank the pastor and his wife
Quiero agradecer al pastor y su esposa
and the beauty of the sanctuary.
por venir y la belleza del templo acá.
We just enjoy it. It's
Lo disfrutamos muchísimo.
beautiful to look at.
Muy hermoso. Muy.
Thank you.
Gracias.
The name Henderson
El nombre Henderson
has never left my heart.
nunca ha dejado mi corazón.
I grew up hearing that name.
Yo crecí escuchando ese nombre.
In fact, my mom used to tell me
De hecho, mi mamá me decía antes
that I preach like my grandfather,
que predico como mi abuelo,
but I never met my grandfather.
pero nunca conocí a mi abuelo.
I stood at his grave this morning,
Me paré frente a su tumba esta mañana
and honored him
y lo honré
for the legacy that he gave me.
por el legado que me dejó a mí.
The God that he served
El Dios a quien servía a él
is the God I serve.
es el mismo Dios a quien sirvo yo.
He left footprints in the sand,
Él dejaba huellas en la arena.
and I have followed those
Y
prints
yo he seguido esas huellas
to the same God.
hasta el mismo Dios.
I know that what is in that cemetery
Yo sé que lo que está en ese cementerio
is only a shell,
es solamente una carcasa, un caparazón.
and I will see Grandpa again.
Y voy a ver a mi abuelo de vuelta.
I'll meet him in glory.
Lo voy a ver en gloria.
Two days before, she tried to get she'd just gotten out of the hospital that day. That night. And she was breathing. And I went up and I threw my arms around her. I left. And I said to her, I said, would you wait? I want to pray for you. After I, this was right in the middle of the altar service. So I went around and we prayed for a lot of other folks. And then we went back to pray with that lady. And there was several of us that gathered around her to pray because I felt that Satan was going to try to encourage her to do it again. And the enemy, was demon possessed. She threw herself to the floor, started to growl at us, and we prayed until the peace of Jesus came into her life, into her heart, and stayed there with her, and prayed with her. And then you can see her, we start worshiping the Lord. There she is right there. And The song that they're singing is "There's Liberty in the House of the Lord," and it was awesome. This was already over an hour in the altar. All the seat benches was way back behind all the people that were standing. This was truly Pentecost, truly 100%. And it was my testimony for the legacy my grandfather left. He left the power of the Holy Spirit. The pastor told me that they're dealing with lots of witchcraft in Henderson, so they have a lot of people being set. Some obviously want it, some don't. There's Brother Alvarez. He's 89 years old. He was in my grandfather's last service. He was 13 years of age at the time, and he is a member of the church. He appears to be in very good health. His sons, he has, how many children did he have? I think it was 12 or 14. His youngest son is younger than Barb and I, and they attend the church. They're the ones that maintain the grave of my grandfather. This is the day we left Henderson. These people were just amazing. The pastor and his wife hugged me and wept, and just wept. Prayed for me in tongues, and I knew it wasn't Spanish. I could tell that, the Holy Spirit. They both just cried when we left. They prayed for us on Sunday night, and they both hugged us on Sunday night and wept and wept and wept. I can't tell you, I can't explain to you, there was a bond and a union because we both serve and love the same Jesus Christ. There was that bond. But there was another bond that went much, much deeper. And it was a respect for my grandfather and his ministry, and me being the grandson. And I just can't tell you the love. I honestly have come away understanding why my grandfather loved these people. I understand it more today than what I ever did. It's just absolutely amazing. And there's our last day in the hotel. She can't resist cleaning up the room. She's got to put the bedspread. They have somebody that's paid to do that, but she had to put the bedspread back on the bed. This was Wheels Up over Buenos Aires. And when I looked out over the city, I wept. I left part of my heart in Argentina. I have prayed for Argentina for years and prayed for Henderson, but when you see it, totally different. Totally different. They responded they sat there and they soaked in the Word. And when the altar called, there was no hesitation whatsoever. People just thronged to the altars, and we could have gone on for hours. Our first service was 2.5 hours long. On the Saturday night, the Sunday night was 3 hours long. And they would have stayed. They would have stayed longer. They just love the moving of God and the presence of the Holy Spirit. They just love it. Atlanta to Pittsburgh, what an awesome finish. This was sunrise in Atlanta, actually. And then we got on the plane, and I looked out the window, and this is a vapor trail of another jet, and just an awesome picture. And then we get home, and my kids, my daughter made a cake, and Ben suggested they do something, and so my daughter made a cake and welcomed us home. This really was an awesome experience for me. I wish I had met my grandfather, but I didn't. I have never met him in life, but I sure met his ministry and the effect that ministry had on the lives of people. And that has left an indelible print on my life. This was a journey that unlocked a legacy for me. And I can tell you right now that I would go back in a heartbeat. I really would. I'd go back in a heartbeat. Barb and I both came away saying this was more than what we ever expected it to be. We were blessed more than we blessed. And it was just awesome. And thank you for allowing Barb and I to take that trip to my congregation. Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. But it was certainly a journey that was worth it. Ed?
Is it because we in America are blessed so much that we take for granted what we have?
I think that's part of it, Ed. I think it's also we have too many distractions.
Yes.
We have too much drawing us away from God. They don't have as much as what we do. And their main focus is, there was a very revival that moved through Argentina several years ago. And that revival, it continues to just flow. But we have too much. I notice it when I come home. Barb and I, neither one of us, of course, you never want to go back to work after you come back from vacation. But work seems like a distraction.
The simpleness of life.
Yeah. They came on bicycles, they came on motorcycles, they came in very few cars. They walked, they took a bus to church, and man, they were there. When they were there for, they came, church started at 7:30. They were already packing in at 7 o'clock and singing. The worship team was already singing at 7 o'clock. And it was just, honestly, I think it's too easy, for us here to make a decision as to whether we want to go to church or not,
Did you see a comparison on the witchcraft there that you see here in the United States? As we're seeing more, I see, but we don't understand it maybe as to what you thought there.
Yeah, they are actually teaching it in the schools down there. They're teaching witchcraft they're teaching witchcraft in the schools. Yeah, they go into the cemeteries, they rob the graves to take bones to use in their ceremonies. Yeah. And it's very easy to rob the grave because on just for example, on November the 2nd every year, they call it the Day of the Dead. Okay? And in those big crypts and mausoleums that you saw, those are there. If you look inside the front doors, there's caskets stacked in there on both sides, 5 high. Okay? And what they do on November the 2nd is they open up those doors and they go in and they decorate all of the caskets. They decorate them with fine linens, they decorate them with flowers, and they decorate those caskets. And they pretty much worship the dead. On November 2nd, it's called the Day of the Dead. And then Where there are not those mausoleums, those individual mausoleums, the back wall of the cemetery is all individual graves where you can open the door of the mausoleum. Some of them are glass, but you can open it and pull the casket out, decorate it, and put it back in. Yeah. It's a very, the cemetery was really very depressing to be in. Not that a cemetery is, a place you want to be around, but, it's amazing. Very dirty but nothing like what we have up here. Nothing like the cemeteries in North America. But what's that? Oh yeah. Always, everybody hugs. You hug everybody. You get kissed, just, by your ear, but you get hugged by everybody. We prayed for 2 little kids. They were about 8 years old who I prayed for and led them to Jesus Christ. They came forward on the Sunday night that I was there. And I'm telling you, we prayed, we laid hands on people. It was just amazing, the power of God, how it came down. And as soon as I started to pray for people, you could feel the power of the Holy Ghost come down and hit them, and they would go down under the power of God. And I give God all the glory. I take no credit for that at all, not whatsoever. But people were just so hungry and so moved and just wanted God so much. They were just so passionate for God. Yeah.
How come we don't arrest those grave robbers?
Well, they probably don't know who they are. It's done under the darkness of night, more than likely. But some of the graves that, like my grandfather's that you saw, one grave that I have a picture of, it was actually open, and you could see the casket down in, but the casket was empty. The bones had been taken, and we don't know whether they were taken by by the devil worship or by not paying the rent on the grave, but one or the other. The bones were gone, and the caskets are body shaped. They're not like the American coach, what they call coaches. They're not American caskets. They're body shaped. They're thin at the feet and widen out of the upper torso. But I don't question. Going back to something you said, Brother, I don't question our love for Jesus Christ here. Okay? I can tell you that the power of God is at work in Henderson. I can tell you that for sure. Okay? And I can just tell you that they're very, 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 very passionate about their relationship with God. They're very passionate about the infilling of the Holy Ghost. They're very passionate about the Word of God. And their love is just unmatched, unbelievable. And it's not unusual. But listen, that's not to say they don't have problems, because the pastor was telling us that there was a man in the church who just had just left the church and took a group of people with him just a few months ago. He had managed to get a support of a number of people in the church, and they still had that many left. Yeah, he played the accordion. I know, yeah, but no, I was hoping to have one there, and I would have if that guy had stayed. It was, I was concerned of how the baggage handlers would handle it on the plane. Our flights were awesome. We had no complaints. The food was even good. We ate the food. Our flights were awesome. But like I said, this was an experience for me. That I talked to Brother Alvarez, and he remembers my mom and my grandmother and my aunt. When he was 13. Grandpa died in 5 years. My mom and my aunt and my grandmother continued on in the church in Henderson, and Mom did the preaching. And then they came back to Canada, and my mom wanted to go back to the mission field, but the Canadian assemblies at that time would not send unmarried women back to the mission field. And Mom got married. Mom met my dad. She was going to a town west or east of St. Thomas to preach on a Sunday morning, and she missed her bus. So she stopped into the Pentecostal church in St. Thomas and asked if there was anybody that could give her a ride to Aylmer. And my dad was counting the Sunday school offering. And my dad said, "I'll give you a ride." So he gave her a ride for 42 years. And then he went home to be with the Lord. But my mom, in a mission service at our church camp where I was raised up in Canada, my mom and my dad and my two sisters and I, we always went to that camp, and we were just little kids. I don't remember this. But my mom was sitting on the front row, and a man by the name of James Montgomery was preaching. And he came down to my mom. We were all sitting in the front row of the church, and he came down to my mom, and he knew my mom and dad. And he said to my mom, he said, "I know you want to go back to the mission field." But he pointed to my two sisters and I, and he said, "This is your mission field." And to the glory of God, my two sisters and I are now in the work of the Lord, because my mom had a mission field. Mom and Dad went back to Argentina in 1987. My dad had never been there. They had an opportunity to visit in 1987. That was before the church was remodeled. Okay, my aunt had an opportunity to go back in 2003, and I have a feeling that I'll probably return to Argentina at some point and spend more time in Henderson. They took us to the train station where my grandfather came in on the train. When my grandfather got sick, he returned to Canada. He was in Canada for 2 years to recuperate. Then he returned to Argentina. So actually he only spent 10 years of time on the mission field. But in that time, he left a powerful, powerful message and legacy. Powerful. So, any other questions? Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing with us. And our hearts are forever moved. They are. I can honestly tell you that. Forever changed. Just an awesome experience. Awesome. Thank you so much. God bless you. Benjamin, go back and stop the webcam. Hurry up.